I didn't know who Mary Berry was when I did Bake Off. Someone on a TV show took my bread, served it to a famous chef, and told them they'd made it. So the one thing I struggle with sometimes is that people only identify me to Bake Off.
Today on the Good Food Podcast, I am joined by baker and author Edd Kimber. Known for his creative and deeply comforting recipes, Edd has built a reputation as one of the most trusted voices in home baking. His latest book, Chocolate Baking, puts one of our favourite ingredients centre stage. From everyday bakes to more technical treats, he joins us to talk about the magic of chocolate, the mistakes home bakers make, and what he thinks of the Nigella announcement. Welcome, Edd. Thank you
very
so
much.
much for joining me.
Pleasure.
I'd like to know what you had for dinner last night.
I had a kind of stalwart in our house, which is lasagna, but it's a weird mashup. So we make Ottolenghi's like mushroom ragu.
Yeah.
It has like, as per a classic Ottolenghi recipe, about 50 ingredients in it. But it's so delicious. You just throw everything in the oven and roast it really slowly. Nice. And then we turn it into a non-vegan lasagna. So it's a vegan ragu with lots of cheese and bechamel. But it's, to be honest, I think it's the best lasagna. I like it more than any meat lasagna. It's so tasty.
Is that in one of his books?
Possibly. I remember seeing it in one of his columns, and I think it's gone into one of his books down the line.
Because I made a mushroom lasagna of his, and I made the error that would annoy me if other people made and didn't read the recipe properly. So I didn't have the right lasagna tin.
Oh yeah, fair.
I made it in triple the size,
so
and it was really
flat.
And I was like, this is dry. And I'm like, but it's obviously not his fault. It's
Although I also don't love a really wet lasagna.
Okay, yeah.
When I was a kid, I actually threw a full temper tantrum because my dad made lasagna with too much white sauce, and I was very too much. And it was pathetic. Because I used to really have this massive hatred of white sauce.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I also think that my parents' white sauce was really bland.
Okay.
So it could possibly be that as well.
Texture, maybe, or?
Maybe. I'm not a big hater of texture. My fiance is really against lots of texture. His family have lots of hatreds of can't eat this because it's got texture, this texture.
Like prawns. Do they hate prawns?
A lot of them have an issue with meat, the texture of meat, anything gristly or texture they don't like, which is why we don't eat a lot of meat.
Yeah. My partner's like that with chicken on the bone, which
really?
is so annoying because that's the best kind of chicken.
Yeah, 100%.
So sometimes I'm like, shall I cut it off for you? And then I'm like, I can't. So it's just going into mum mode.
Yeah, exactly. You're you have to grow up and do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, you're here to talk about your new book, which is Chocolate Baking.
Mm-hmm.
So you've said this, that I think that this is the book that you've always wanted to write.
Basically, yeah.
So what is it about chocolate that, apart from the obvious, that you absolutely love?
I think it's one of those things when it's an ingredient that is so vast and varied. It's much more of a category than it is a specific ingredient. And it's also so much more flexible than I think often people give it credit for. So I think when most people think of chocolate, they think of a very, very dark chocolate cake, which is just that one flavor note, and it's really delicious, but it's very simple. And I think people don't think of chocolate in the breadth that it can be. So you can have, white chocolate, caramelized white chocolate, ruby chocolate, which I actually hate. But, and I also think the ingredient itself is fascinating. I have this weird thing where I'm obsessed with how something came to be.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with alcohol, which sounds bad, but I meant how did we come to the idea of drinking alcohol?
Sure.
I found it very strange. I could never quite understand where we got to.
Yeah.
And I think chocolate is even more so an unusual story of plant to product because it's these big pods that hang off a tree and you have to cut them open and then they look really alien inside and they've got this white flesh on them. Who decided or who figured out that you could take that kind of unusual looking thing, turn it into something that would eventually become a bar of chocolate that you can make an amazing cookie with? That to me fascinates me.
And it's the bean, right? Inside the cocoa bean.
Yeah. So you have the white fleshy part on the outside, which is delicious, but most often gets thrown away. But it kind of has a lychee, tropical fruit flavor.
Yeah.
And you can turn it into drinks. You can eat it straight off the bean. But you can also, some chocolate makers are now drying that and then using it almost as sugar. So you can now buy 100% chocolate bars, which actually are sweetened, but they're sweetened with something from the cocoa plant, which means you can call it 100% chocolate. But then, you have to then roast the bean and then crack it open to take out the nibs and then grind that with sugar. And then it's a whole process.
Yeah, and was that the Mayans that were the first?
So the Mayans weren't the first, but they're one of the people that are seen as the popularizing the idea of chocolate and using it. But it used to be a drink. And then it was so foreign to what we would think of as hot chocolate now because it wasn't sweet. It was made with maize and spices and all manner of things. And then obviously it slowly develops, which is basically what happens with all of those things.
Yeah, of course.
My brain just works in a weird way, I guess, but it just fascinates me.
I guess as well, it's almost how we're going to have to end up living now, is that they had to use everything.
Totally.
It's because that's all they had.
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
was like, I guess that maybe was how things like that developed years ago.
I also sometimes think there must be something like one broke open, someone saw it and went, what's this? And like, there's someone who's
true.
inquisitive enough to go, I'm going to try that. And then, it develops
and not
from
die.
there.
Hopefully.
Exactly. Yeah, hopefully. Well, I'm sure there was a litany of people who tried things and did die.
Yeah.
And cocoa was the one thing where we went, oh, we can eat this one. It's fine.
So when you were like researching the book and writing everything, how much research did you do? How far did you delve?
Well, chocolate is one of those things that I have had like a lifetime's obsession with. So a lot of the knowledge was kind of there already, but I did want to make sure that I had it all completely correctly. So there was a lot of reading and kind of researching just to make sure my understanding was still correct, because I remember when I first started working in food, they used to think there was like 4 varieties of cacao, and now they think there's at least 10. And so like things do change as people understand it more. So there was a lot of that at the start, and I've never really had the opportunity to write a book where I'm given the space to really delve into a topic. So the start of the book isn't recipes. There's a big part of the start which is about the history. It's about how cocoa and how chocolate is made, and then techniques on using it really well, because the heart of the book's idea for me was to try and help the user, because that's kind of what I always think of with cookbooks, is what is the reason for writing it and what am I trying to help people do. And I think chocolate can be a little bit scary to some people because it's expensive and it's easy to mess up sometimes, but also those things are very easy to avoid. And so I wanted to give people all the kind of tips and techniques so they could avoid that, and then give them 100 like amazing recipes.
And I guess that's kind of what your books have been sort of from the very beginning. They've been about sort of almost simplifying something that can be seen as tricky and making it easier for the end user without it kind of meaning that the quality's lessened.
For sure. I think the first 2 books I wrote were much more generalist. And then I decided I wanted to write a book on French baking, which was kind of like my first love with baking. It's the reason I got into baking as a career, was because I fell in love with French patisserie and had this obsession with like really famous French pastry chefs, and would buy all their books in French and not be able to read them. My publisher wouldn't go for the book unless we made it like a simplified book. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about what that meant for people at home. And I kind of have ended up using that as my roadmap for how I write books, because I think this March and this April are some of the biggest cookbook release months in years. And that's a massive market that you're competing with. So I always think, if you're going to put a book out into the world, what is the reason for it? Why does it exist? Because I think there's a lot of books that are kind of vanity, and I don't want to write something that's kind of pointless or is a waste of money. So I want to give real value for money. And I know baking is often seen as a really complicated thing, or I get so many people that will come up to me at events and go, I can't bake. I'm like, you absolutely can. Everybody can bake. But there is a perception that it's difficult. So I like to say that I'm the person that will hold your hand through a recipe.
Nice.
So my editor always has to struggle to get my recipes down in word length, because I like to be very descriptive. And so with this particular book, it was about trying to take away that fear that chocolate can have and just simplify it in a way that is not from the level of, say, a pastry chef or a chocolatier. Because there's loads of amazing books on chocolate from a very high end, but they're really complex, they're very technical, they're very scientific, and I don't think they're very approachable for home bakers.
Sure. It's like the people's chocolate book.
100%, yes, I'll take that. But also there's also books that are a little bit patronizing. And I didn't want to write like a chocolate for dummies kind of book, that style. I wanted it to
give like a comic book.
100%. I wanted it to be incredibly valuable, give you all the information you need, but do it in a package that's really easy to digest and understand.
There is something about how people talk about, like, they want something simplified and therefore it's got to be like a cartoon, or it's got to be like dumbed down a bit, but actually that isn't necessary.
I think so, and I think there's a lot of food content can be really dumbed down, and I find it really depressing, because I don't think the home audience needs kind of patronizing. I think there's a lot they'll understand and can take on. And I think they're also eager for all of that, and they're
Absolutely.
hungry for that. So I really want to be at their level, but help them understand and be that person who can kind of give them the confidence to give it a go.
Almost like a YouTube video, but on paper.
Yeah, kind of like a really in-depth
steps.
Yeah. So there's so much information that you can give, but then like on the flip side of that, you've seen those like Instagram videos or TikTok videos where it's just like, it makes me so mad, like dumb food videos where it's like, no one's making this. This is purely for rage bait. And it's also like, oh, we've made it really simple. I'm like, no, you just chuck some stuff on top of each other. Like, no, people have the ability and the want to make something delicious. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a helping hand to give them the confidence to do it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier about chocolate being expensive. I mean, that's something, isn't it, that's kind of, it's becoming more and more expensive now. Have you changed the way you work with chocolate because of that? Or have you like changed the type of chocolate you use? Or do you just trying to do it less?
It's a very tricky topic because there's a very good and genuine argument that chocolate should be more expensive than it is because it's a very hard crop to grow. And the reason there's a lot of cheap chocolate is not a good reason. There's a lot of child slavery still in the chocolate supply chain. And there's a lot of kind of bad labor practices. And so if you're wanting to avoid all that, you then start paying more for chocolate naturally because that's just the way the market is. But it's undoubtedly, like there's been a really bad harvest the last couple of years because of bad weather. There is issues with disease in the crop, which is a problem. And then obviously you've got climate changes really making it harder to grow. So hopefully the price has stabilized slightly now because it does seem to have stabilized in the last couple of months. But the nice thing about the book is it gave me the ability to say that chocolate doesn't have to always be the main flavor. It can be much more subtle than that.
Yeah.
So just because you want to have something with chocolate in it doesn't mean it has to be like the most over the top, bog trotter style cake from Matilda. It can be subtle, it can be delicate. And so there's loads of recipes in there where actually the chocolate is like a way of enhancing flavor rather than being the dominant. I think that's a nice way of kind of still getting that hit of chocolate, but not doing it in such a big way.
I know what would your favorite kind of flavor combinations be with chocolate?
Oh, I mean, that is tricky. There's one that I make a lot because I just love it, but it is also possibly the hardest to buy ingredient in the book. But it's chocolate and tonka cake.
Oh,
so
yes, nice.
I am obsessed with tonka bean. It's like my favorite thing ever. I've been buying it since I was about, I don't know, 18 maybe. I went to Paris and found a tub of it in this really amazing ingredient shop.
Okay.
And it's just the most incredible thing. It goes so well with milk chocolate.
Yeah.
And so I have this cake in the book that's a cream cheese pound cake that's infused with tonka.
Nice.
So when you cream the butter and sugar together, you add the tonka bean to it.
And for listeners, tonka bean is basically like, I always feel like it's sort of like a vanilla, almost like vanilla flavor, but it's like
kind
a
of
bean,
vanilla
isn't
coated.
it?
Yeah, it's like this little black bean that does not look edible at all.
Yeah.
Technically it's poisonous, but what isn't? So it's actually banned in the US because
is it?
Yeah, so it has a very high level of something called coumarin, which is technically toxic. But there's more coumarin in cinnamon than there is in tonka.
Right.
And weirdly, Americans consume significantly more
They love cinnamon,
than they do tonka. So it's a bit of a weird one. So
because you don't use the whole bean, you grate it,
it's
don't you?
incredibly
like
strong.
In a sense,
it's
but it's
very
softer than
similar to
nutmeg. Yeah. Which is also poisonous, I think.
I
right?
believe
If
it's
you
kind
eat-
of the similar sort of level. So I don't see it as being that bad. But, use your own judgment. But it has this incredible flavor of vanilla, but also spice. And to me, it's this really heady, intoxicating flavor. And it's in so many of my favorite fragrances as well. Like when I'm looking for a new aftershave, I'm like, that one's got tonka in it. Oh, that's the reason I like it. But it goes so well with chocolate, but
That's
especially
interesting.
milk chocolate.
I've never tried it. I've tried it. I used to make a jam, like rhubarb and tonka bean jam.
Yeah,
But
right.
I've never tried it with chocolate. I don't,
I
apart from in a
basically throw in
restaurant,
everything.
probably.
Oh yeah, it's a very, very restaurant-y.
It's easy. I feel like it's not too difficult to buy now outside of the supermarket.
No,
but
there's
it never
loads of
caught on
places.
in the way that I think, because for a while restaurants were doing tonka bean everything.
Yeah,
and
I keep getting the impression it might be on like the precipice of almost becoming, but I think that also just could because I really want it to be popular.
Yeah, that
But
might be it.
love it. So I will take any opportunity to throw in a recipe.
I think maybe if the Americans made it legal, maybe it would become a bigger thing.
I think so.
That might also ruin it, though, to be fair.
It could also possibly ruin it.
Right, we're going to move on from chocolate.
Yes.
Because I feel like it would be I'd be remiss not to mention Bake Off. Because you were the first ever winner.
When I was this tall.
Yes.
I'm only 22 now, so, you know.
But how many years ago was that now?
16 years ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I find the funniest thing I find about Bake Off is not actually anything to do with the show. It's what happens afterwards. When if you go to like a book launch of anyone that's been in Bake Off or any event from anyone that's been in Bake Off, you're all there.
Yeah.
It's like you all become this, and not even just a series that you were on.
Yeah.
It's like every series that's ever existed. Everyone kind of gets to know each other.
It's also really funny. There's certain people who seem to attract like a big crowd of Bake Off people. So I always find it really funny if I ever go to one of Chetna McCann's book launches.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Because I love Chetna, but for some reason, I don't know why, Bake Off people of all series seem to be attracted to Chetna. So if you go to one of Chetna's book launches, there will be people from basically every season.
Did you go to the one at her house?
I did go to one at her house,
and I remember that was the first time I'd ever kind of been to a big book launch, I think. And it was just, it was Bake Off Central. I was like, oh my goodness, is this like a reunion? It was like, it was mad.
I mean, there is like literally, well, not literally, there's hundreds of them probably now. So,
there will be 16 or 17 winners
the world
now.
Slowly.
Yeah. And how do you feel about the Nigella news?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Like thrilled. I remember I got a bunch of journalists calling me in the week before it was announced saying, we're hearing rumors, it's Nigella, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, great, obviously.
Yeah.
End of quote. Like, it's so obviously a great decision. I'm just shocked they got her because I'm sure she was on the list originally, like for the original role. And I just think she'll be great at it. Like she was the person for a generation of people who got them into cooking, but also baking. Yeah. And I think a lot of people forget that Nigella's early book was basically a baking book. And it's so iconic, that book, but also like I gave an interview the other day and I said, I didn't know who Mary Berry was when I did Bake Off. I was the only person that turned up who didn't bring this old ratty copy of her most famous books. I went and bought one to go, oh, I've got one too. But I did know Nigella because Nigella was the person I grew up watching on TV. So I am so happy that she's got the job because I think she'll breathe in like a new life to the show.
Yeah, and I think she's very like caring and very nurturing, I think, for future talent as well.
You mean she's the opposite of Paul?
Well, I mean, I don't really know Paul, to be fair.
But I think like they play certain characteristics and I think she'll be a really good foil to Paul's more stern, kind of teacherly role.
It's funny you say about Mary. I feel like that was quite true at the time. I think she wasn't a TV star, but she
skipped a generation.
Yeah. She used to do that. Was it the Hamlin All Colour Cookbook?
She did Hamlin, I think. And then she used to go to people's houses back in the day to teach them how to use their Argas, I think.
Yes.
But I think like there's a lot of people who were older on the show who like knew and loved Mary. But I think they must have been the generation that had her like at the end of that first wave of her career.
Sure.
And then I grew up and she was not on TV. I didn't have her books at home.
Yeah.
But I was the wave of like Jamie Oliver on TV and
same.
Nigella on TV. So that's kind of was my introduction to food media.
Maybe you need to enter it again. Yeah. What do they do? All Stars? Have they had an All Stars?
They do. I've always said I would never go back.
Oh, okay.
Mainly because I don't want to compete on a reality show again.
Yeah. Like, what if you lose this time as well?
Exactly.
That would be embarrassing.
That would be incredibly embarrassing.
Right, I'm going to move on to our next section, which is favourite dish.
Okay.
So I was wondering what your favourite dish of all time would be.
Oh, God.
Not your dad's lasagna, obviously.
No. I think you could give like the nostalgic answer, which would be like my mum's apple crumble.
Nice.
Because there's such a nostalgic thing to it. But then I would also say like my favorite moment of eating would be basically 100 different things in Japan.
Okay.
Because like I'm obsessed with Japan and the food there was like blow you away, incredible. So there was one meal specifically where I was staying in this really amazing hotel in Osaka. I was actually writing for Olive magazine while I was there.
Yeah.
And that opened some doors, and the restaurant was like, we're going to close just for you.
Oh.
I know. So me and my fiance had dinner in a teppanyaki restaurant like 40 floors up.
Wow.
And all the staff thought I was someone really fancy, which I am not, because we had this waitress she came up to and she gave me her business card and she said, I'm going to come and work for you in London now. And I was like, I don't know what you think I do. But
Yeah, how many staff have you got?
I know. But it was amazing because like it was this very quiet, intimate moment of sat in front of a teppanyaki table with the chef cooking for us whilst we looked out over Osaka.
Wow.
And so like just from a moment, that would be my kind of favorite eating moment.
Is it true in Japan if you always have to leave a little bit on your plate?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't.
To be polite. I guess they probably know now that if you're anglicised, you're not going to...
I mean, I think tourism there is huge at the moment, so I'm sure there is.
Just my friend's brother lives in Japan, and we were having dinner the other day, and the kids cleaned their plates, which is good. But she was like, if you were with Uncle Michael in Japan, you would have to leave something on. But then, does she really know? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that you...
Yeah, I mean, it sounds definitely, because there is definitely lots of customs that are very different to here. So that wouldn't surprise me,
And what would your mum's apple crumble involve?
Very simple. It was like as simple as you could get, really. But I have this very strong memory of like two things my mum doing. One is watching Coronation Street while she made the crumble, and she had this old Kenwood mixer that had like a big plastic bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And she used to use it as her one mixing bowl. And so she would get a knife and I could just hear her cutting the
like
crumble
scraping.
mixture.
Yeah.
Just with like a butter knife. And then the other one is the noise of her rolling out pastry because of her ring. So there was a very classic noise of like it clinking on there.
That was when she was making...
That was something else, yeah.
So
like,
she does like, it might be a twist where you have
very
like a pie crumble.
No, it was very classic, like Bramley apples,
Yeah.
still quite tart. My mum really likes tart, acidic kind of flavors. So like we used to have a lot of gooseberries at home because my mum loves gooseberry. And then we used to have a massive rhubarb bush in our garden, but it was like incredibly thick, stalky rhubarb. So it was bright green. It was
not the forced rhubarb.
Pink. And so it was very, very sharp and sour.
And do you do crumble now?
I do, yeah.
But not the same? Or?
It is very, very similar. I tend to make it slightly, often the apple element is similar, but I quite often will make it with a mixed fruit. So my favorite is like at the moment apple and rhubarb.
Okay, nice.
And I tend to add lots more oats to my crumble, and I also make it slightly less. I think there was a tradition of making crumble really fine and almost crumbly.
Yeah, like sandy.
Much more sandy, and I like mine much more like clumps of crumble. So, but otherwise, it's very, very similar.
I used to hate crumble.
Really?
Well, I think what I used to not like the fruity bit underneath because it was often so tart and not that sweet.
Yeah, sure, that's fair.
But now, I just love it. But I think that's because I douse it in custard. Because custard's my favourite thing in the world.
Do you know the best bit of a crumble, though?
The crumble?
No, it's the bit between. So you've got the crumble bit on top, and then you've got the fruit and things, but that like sticky, jammy bit in the middle is by far the best.
Where it kind of combines.
It's where the two meet, it's just the best.
Yeah, you're right.
But you also need like a really thick ratio of crumble. There's nothing worse than like a really stodgy, like stingy crumble.
Like literally like someone's poured a little bit of dust on top.
Well, I once went to, there was a pub in Angel where I used to live, and for some reason we never ordered dessert then. We ordered a crumble after our roast, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen because they didn't make a crumble. They literally got some digestive biscuits, crumbled it on top of this like stewed apple. We all stared at it in shock, and then we went to a pub down the street to get an actual crumble. It was like so unbelievably bad and disappointing because you build yourself up for a proper classic crumble and then you get that. It's
like a deconstructed thing?
It was just terrible.
Mad. I love this new thing about where you can get crumble when you're like at festivals. It's lethal, but
I don't like it.
Oh, do you not?
No, but there's one specific reason, and it's because I don't like it when a crumble is made separately.
Of course.
I don't think it works.
Yeah, okay.
So I think to get my perfect texture, it has to all go in the oven together.
You have to bake it together,
not the fruit, because I just think the texture is very different. I like the idea of it, but it's not something I would personally order.
For me, it's because they put so much custard on.
I mean, they look
it's
insane.
Basically custard with a bit of fruit crumble, and that's why.
That's your perfect ratio.
That's my perfect ratio. Forget the like half crumble, half fruit. It's like 3/4 custard. The rest can be crumble.
Yeah, just a sense of crumble.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we're going to move on to culinary confessions. Okay. What is the one dish that you make better than anyone else?
Chocolate chip cookies. Very confident in my chocolate chip cookies, and I'm also very opinionated about them. So I'm very disappointed that lots of bakeries in the UK don't have like a really good chocolate chip cookie. I think it's something that should be on every coffee shop menu. It should be on every bakery menu. And I just think they're excellent. So I also think I make truly excellent cookies.
What would your chocolate chip cookies most resemble? Would it be like, are they more American style?
They're definitely more American style. They're not shortbready. They're not crunchy. They're crisp, lightly crisp on the outside, fudgy in the middle, but they also just have a ton of flavor and texture going on. So I never make it with big chunks of chocolate. It's always kind of chopped up irregularly so that the cookie has like a real mix of texture. But also it has things like rye flour in there, brown butter in there to really amp up the flavor. But I do like something that has like a sense of gooiness, but not like raw. So it has to be that kind of perfect balance.
If you were never allowed to make another cookie in your life, where would you buy them from?
Ooh, that is a difficult question. I once went around London to try and find my favorite. And I think I went to like 30 different bakeries. And none of them had what I would say is like my proto-ideal. But there was lots of very good ones.
Okay.
So Layla in West London made a very good one. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to bake it inside a metal ring instead of just loose on the tray. And for them, it helps them keep it all even and make sure they all look the same. But the reason it was good is it helped give a very crisp edge and then keep the center really fudgy. But they also used really, really good chocolate, which I think is, to be honest, the difference between great and good is good chocolate, because there's a lot of places that they don't really think about the chocolate. So it's very cheap or not very good tasting. And I think it really, really makes a difference.
I was hoping you'd say Ben's cookies, because I've just got you'll probably hate them, but I am obsessed. Because when I was a kid, probably explain why I was overweight as a child, Ben's cookies had this thing where you could go in, and the one in Bath anyway, you go in and you go, can I have the broken bits?
Really?
And they would sell you a bag or box of broken bits for like £1.
I remember Broken Biscuits used to get a bag of like all the supermarket biscuits, broken custard creams. Like,
they don't do it now. I think they do Yesterdays, where you can go in and buy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like cheaper, but not like £1.
I do like the fact that they're at least getting rid of, you're not going to waste,
exactly,
which is great.
You don't chuck it away. But I do get that, I think it's, for me, it's they're almost not cookies. I like that kind of cookie where it's very soft.
Very, very,
I don't like the Maryland style, like biscuity.
Yeah. No, it's not for me. Like, if I'm going to have a shortbread, I want shortbread. I don't want, chunks of like not very good tasting chocolate in there.
Right, well, I'm going to try Layla's then.
It is really good.
Have you ever served something ready-made and pretended you made it yourself?
No, but then I don't think I'd have shame in serving something ready-made, which I definitely have done.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't think I would pretend I'd made it myself. I've had the opposite, where people have taken my food and pretended they served it to someone else. Someone on a TV show took my bread, served it to a famous chef, and told them they'd made it. So...
Who was that? We can't say.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I got in trouble last time.
Oh, did you? Yes. I could Google it.
It's possibly available somewhere on Google, yes.
If your personality were a flavour of ice cream, what would it be and why?
Ooh, I'm going to say toasted and salted vanilla, because I like a classic, but I'm also a bit weird, and I can also be a bit grumpy. So like the smoked,
is that the saltiness?
And the saltiness. Yeah, it can be both sides. Yeah, so maybe that. Yeah. I think that would probably work.
When are you most grumpy?
When my dog's misbehaving, probably.
Oh, okay.
Like the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, like noisy misbehavior?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He just my fiance came home from work, and I was like, he has been a terror all day. He just hadn't stopped barking at me all day. And most of the day he sleeps. So it was very out of character.
Something, but you don't know what.
Well, he's been a little ill recently. And I think it's because he's finally feeling better. So he's like, by the way, I've got energy. So I'm going to tell you all about my energy.
Right, you're opening a themed restaurant based on your life.
Okay.
What would it be called? And what is the signature dish?
God, I think probably because I can't escape it, it would have to be The Boy Who Bakes. Because as much as I used that moniker when I was like 24, it has glued itself to me.
Yeah.
Although I had this amazing thing happen the other day. I started posting videos again on YouTube, and someone said, I haven't seen your videos in a while. It used to be The Boy Who Bakes, now it's The Daddy Who Bakes. And I sent it immediately to my fiance. I was like, this is the best comment I've had all day. It's excellent. And I think the signature would be, it's a chocolate cake from the book, which is it has become a signature that I make all the time for people now. It's 4 layers of very thin rye chocolate cake with a chocolate ganache and then a whipped caramel layer. And it's just beautiful. So I make it for people on special occasions. I've been making it a lot recently.
Very nice. What is the one misconception people have about you that you'd like to change?
Ooh.
This I've introduced because apparently Ravinda Bogle asks this to everybody when she first meets them.
I think it's a really good question. Yeah. I think for me, the one thing I struggle with sometimes is that people only identify me to Bake Off, which I'm so proud of and incredibly thankful to. But sometimes I do think it has been 16 years. And I think there's a weird thing in the UK where the press sometimes only ever identify you on the thing that you started with.
Interesting.
And I also think the UK press has done this 180 on Bake Off. And so sometimes in certain parts of the media, it's not a positive thing.
Sure.
Whereas when I go to America, it's like, oh my God, you were on Bake Off, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I wish, not all the time, sometimes I wish there was a little bit of distance from it.
Yeah.
But,
that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I think I was reading something the other day or watching a video of something. And it was a reel about someone who'd won X Factor.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that in the UK, if you win something like that, or you're a contestant.
I saw the same video.
Did you? Was it Matt Cardle? So, yeah. No, not Matt Cardle.
No, it was someone I'd actually never heard of.
So. Yeah, and he said that, but in America that wouldn't happen. Whereas here it's like you're almost like, if you, I think it hasn't happened with you, but with him, I think he did well and then kind of disappeared. Nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's because he thinks because of X Factor, whereas I think over in America, yeah, like you say, it's different.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's also a different attachment here to reality versus the US. I've been watching the America's Next Top Model documentary.
Yeah, same, yeah.
And it was really interesting them talking about how these models would win the show and then never work. And it was because there was a stigma of being on a reality show. And in America, that's made a complete 180.
Yeah.
Now, reality shows are often the way into things, which is good or bad, on your viewpoint. But I think in the UK, there's a difference where sometimes, and I don't think it's quite the case with Bake Off. Like, Bake Off has had a real amazing run, and people really do love it. But I think there's a certain type of press that look down on people that come from reality shows. And I think sometimes I have to fight a little bit harder to be given the space. Like I remember when I first won the show, I was doing an event and there was a very famous chef at the time who was also doing the event. He had been told that I was coming, and basically the only reason I was there was to advertise an afternoon tea that I was doing at the venue.
Okay.
And so the venue had me come in to serve petit fours, and that was it. And he was like the most famous chef on TV at the time. And he threw a fit that I was coming and demanded extra payment and said I wasn't allowed to attend. It was just all very strange. And I remember I was doing a food festival and walked in, and there was all these very famous chefs. And there was definitely like, I had to really earn the respect that other people were getting because I hadn't come the traditional route of, working up through kitchens.
Sure.
And so I do sometimes think it's really nice when you can think about people from different aspects and how they've come into the world, because I think it makes people more interesting when you don't follow the same pattern.
And also you've brought an interest to baking that probably had disappeared for a while. So it adds a new injection into the industry, I think.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, I always see my role as trying to get people in the kitchen. That's ultimately the only thing I want to do, is to encourage people to enjoy baking because it's something that's brought me so much pleasure.
I often forget, if I'm honest, that you were in Bake Off because it was such a long time ago. And actually many people that won Bake Off are not writing baking books because it's so difficult in that industry, in that area.
I would say the thing I'm most proud of in my career is that I'm still here because that's hard. And also that I haven't, me and my fiance joke all the time that I could make way more money if I wrote cookbooks because they sell a lot more books because naturally more people cook than bake.
Sure.
But I always wanted to be the person that people would turn to for baking.
Yeah.
And I think there's such value in being like someone who's only talking about one thing because it gives them, authority and people can understand it.
Niche.
Yeah. And so I always think there's a real speciality in just doing one thing. But it does make it harder because it's a very crowded market. It's very hard to sell books to a lot of people because people don't bake as much as they cook. So.
But you can bake anything, really. So your next one could be baked rice or baked.
Someone asked if I ever wanted to write a savory baking book. But every time I post a savory baking recipe, it tanks.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't think there's a huge market for it.
So I often find that with and I don't think this with yours, but you do look at some people that post baking recipes and it's just stuff that you couldn't eat because it's just so sweet.
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure.
like, but they do really well. I'm like, is anyone making them? Because it's just like packs of Oreos on a,
What was that Oreo cheesecake thing or whatever it was the other day? I do have a real love and hate with social media. I love social media because it's helped my career. It's how I advertise what I do, and it's a big part of why I'm successful. But I also hate it because there's so much bad food content that's there purely for rage bait or clickbait, and it's just I wish we weren't all based around this algorithm that rewards stuff that you're not actually going to want to make.
It is odd.
I think that's why traditional media actually has a really good role to play in cooking, because they can afford to do the things that actually people will want to make. Whereas, social media has to be trying to go after the things that will get views, which is not always the stuff people want to make.
Yeah, and I find it bizarre because I get quite fed up with social media now because I don't see what I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I want to watch stuff that excites me and inspires me, and it just kind of doesn't.
It's really hard to get your platforms to give you exactly what you want, because annoyingly, if something comes across your feed that is, insane or ridiculous or tragic, your brain instantly just looks at it for a second or two. Even if you don't like it, you hover for a second, and that's all the algorithm needs to know to go, we're going to give you more of that because it keeps you watching.
And it does.
Yeah, of course.
What was actually mine, because I've stopped watching it, but I was hooves, cows' hooves being cleaned. I don't know what. I know. Because it must have come up. I watched it for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it just kept coming, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll just keep watching." And then I got obsessed with them. But actually, recently, it's kind of disappeared.
How many do you have?
Yeah, I mean, how many can you clean? A whole farm's worth.
Oh,
this
100%.
guy it's like cleaning them and cutting away because I love Dr. Pimple Popper and stuff like
the
that.
scraping of it.
Yeah. I don't know what.
To be fair, I get a lot of dog memes, and that's fair because I am obsessed with my dog.
Well, golden retriever, that's the new thing I see all the time, and I don't even want a golden retriever, but they're so cute and they're so silly.
They are very, very silly.
Okay, well, we will move on to quick fire questions.
Okay.
So I'll start by tapping it.
Okay.
And then I'll read you the questions.
Yeah.
And then on the final question, I will say final question, then read it to you.
Okay.
When you finish the final question, you tap.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Is it like a score on how fast you can answer
If
them?
you can do it under a minute, then that's good.
Okay.
So that should be quite nice to have a scoreboard.
It's a little pancake board.
Yeah, from the old omelette. Was it omelette?
What did I say? Pancake? Yeah, omelette. It was omelette. Yeah.
Ready? Best kitchen tip you've ever been given?
Make sure you've got everything in the recipe before you start cooking.
If you could only eat one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Italian or Japanese.
What ingredient is the biggest waste of money?
Really fancy Himalayan salt. Pointless.
Worst thing you've ever eaten?
Tripe.
Your signature can't be bothered meal?
Peanut butter and toast with jalapeno jam.
Favorite midnight snack?
The same.
What food should have its own national holiday?
Oh, chocolate cake.
What's your go-to hangover food?
Leftover pizza.
What food did you hate as a kid but now love?
Prawns.
If you could invent a new crisp flavour, what would it be?
Everything bagel seasoning.
Name a fictional character you love to have dinner with.
Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek.
Final question, starter, main or dessert?
Dessert.
I reckon that's going to be quick, Yeah, 46 seconds. That was good. And some very good answers. You know that everything bagel?
Yeah.
You can get everything bagel peanut butter. Have you had that?
No.
That's so good.
Who makes that?
Oh, I want to say this cycling peanut butter or something, but that's not what it's called. I have to. No, it's not.
But also, I'm sure someone has made everything bagel season crisp. It surely must have been made, but I just think it would be great. It.
Also, there's the same company do a jalapeno peanut butter.
I mean, that would be great.
Which kind of combines what you have.
I made just a very spicy jalapeno jam slather on top with peanut butter. It's just
Nice.
the best. So good.
And Moira Rose, bless her.
Well, I almost said CJ from The West Wing.
Okay,
Because I
I've not
love
watched
Alice and
that.
Janney.
Yes.
And I think they both have similar-ish energy, but I also just think they would be excellent people to have dinner with for
It's that
different reasons.
dryness, isn't it? That kind
Yeah,
of
and
like
there's like a
sarcasm.
willingness to be silly.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that in
Yeah.
people. So, yeah.
I've been watching Schitt's Creek again because of
So have we.
since she died.
Yeah,
Since-
yeah.
What's her name? Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara, yeah. Well, she was a massive part of my childhood because I was obsessed with Home Alone.
Home Alone, yeah.
Home Alone made me want to move to New York when I was a
Did
kid.
it?
Yeah, 100%.
Just made me want to come up with like ways of attacking burglars.
with different mentalities. But it really, I just loved her.
Yeah,
and
she
then
was
obviously Schitt's Creek really just like reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And I think that is just one of the best characters
And she was
of
in
all time.
What's that zombie TV show called?
Yeah, I haven't seen her season for it.
goodness.
The one with Pedro Pascal,
Yeah.
the computer game one.
Yeah, I can't. I
I
played
don't
the
know.
game as well. And I can't
Oh, I
remember what it's called. Last of Us.
That's it, yeah.
I played the game for about 15 minutes and it
Okay.
scared me, so I gave it back to my
I only
brother.
watched it because of Pedro Pascal, so that's fine.
Wow. Right, final question for today, which is not quick fire, though you can
Okay.
answer it quickly. Which is, what does good food mean to you?
Good food, I think to me, it makes me think of not the food, ironically. It makes me think of everything else, because I was talking to someone the other day about when you go to a restaurant and how there are certain things that make you go back versus not want to go back. And I think food is, for me, one of the last things that makes me want to go back to a restaurant, because I want everything else to be excellent. Because food to me is about entertaining, and it's also about looking after people. And so if I go to a restaurant and the service is amazing, the atmosphere is amazing, the design is amazing, and the food is fine, I'll definitely go back. But if everything else is terrible and the food is fine,
Yeah.
I won't go back. Even if the food is amazing, probably not going back because I'm not going to enjoy the experience. So to me, good food is about good people and like being nice to people. And I always say that the reason we bake is not to eat, because baking is superfluous mostly. Like, yeah, you can make savory things, you can make bread, but a lot of the baking I do is completely superfluous. It's there to be nice to people, to celebrate, to entertain. And so for me, good food is about those moments. And so I don't think food has to be fancy. I don't think food has to be, Michelin star or like complicated. I just think it has to serve a role of, being with people and kind of communing with people. So that to me is what makes good food.
Great.
Is what it can do for people.
That's lovely, thank you. And thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
It's been lovely
Having
to
me.
chat. And good luck with the new book.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Food Podcast. For more recipes and inspiration, visit goodfood.com or download our app. Subscribers to the Good Food app via the App Store can listen to our podcast ad-free.